Russia claims it has torpedoes capable of causing an underwater radioactive tsunami. Additionally, Dmitry Medvedev warned NATO allies that a defeat for Russia in Ukraine could provoke a nuclear war. Russia has made its first batch of nuclear-capable torpedoes that are said to be so powerful they could cause radioactive ocean swells and huge nuclear tsunamis that could destroy coastal cities in the US or its allies. The Poseidon torpedoes are due to be delivered to the special-purpose nuclear-powered submarine Belgorod. A pro-Vladimir Putin figure, Dmitry Medvedev, said that these torpedoes would be capable of causing a 500-meter high tidal wave of radioactive seawater, and that they could plunge Britain into the depths of the sea. If Poseidon can indeed trigger enormous radioactive tsunamis, the torpedoes could have a huge impact on marine life, as well as human life. Radioactive fallout has been previously found to have a big impact on wildlife in the vicinity. In the aftermath of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, birds and mammals were found to have developed cataracts in their eyes and smaller brains. US and Russian officials have both described Poseidon as a new category of retaliatory weapon, capable of triggering radioactive ocean swells to render coastal cities uninhabitable. On the other side, Deputy Chairman of Russia's Security Council Dmitry Medvedev warned NATO allies that a defeat for Russia in Ukraine could provoke a nuclear war. In Telegram, he said, the loss of a nuclear power in a conventional war can provoke the beginning of a nuclear war. Nuclear powers have never lost major conflicts on which their fate depends. Though his comments on Russia's theoretical defeat in Ukraine may show that the Kremlin is increasingly worried about its ability to win Putin's war as Western support for Kyiv continues to roll in. Putin has repeatedly threatened to use at least tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine as the conflict has dragged on much longer than experts think Putin intended. Tactical nuclear weapons are meant to be more contained than other nuclear weapons and used on the battlefield. The nuclear torpedo was presented in 2018 by Russia as the way to ensure Russian military supremacy, although nuclear experts have argued that the same effect can be achieved with an intercontinental missile like those in operation since the 1960s. The United States has activated the satellite network to track torpedoes that takes advantage of the high heat given off by the projectiles when they are activated. But they are unable to detect them under the sea. The Belgorod is 184 meters long and 15 meters wide and can travel at about 60 kilometers per hour underwater. It is estimated that it can go up to 120 days without having to return to the surface. In September 2022, Russian nuclear-powered submarines fired cruise missiles in the Arctic as part of military drills designed to test Moscow's readiness for a possible conflict in its icy northern waters. The drills, named UMCA 2022, took place in the Chukchi Sea, an eastern stretch of the Arctic Ocean that separates Russia from the U.S. state of Alaska. The head of Russian space agency Roscosmos has claimed his country could quickly destroy NATO countries if a nuclear war took place. Dmitry Rogozin, who has made many outlandish and provocative comments in recent months, shared the message in Russian on his Telegram channel. Rogozin claimed that the destruction could happen in 30 minutes, and said, "But we must not allow it, since the consequences of an exchange of nuclear strikes will affect the state of our Earth." Rogozin also wrote in his Telegram post, "NATO is waging war against us. It has not declared it, but it doesn't change anything. Now it's obvious to everyone." His comments do not align with the stance of NATO, which posted a statement on its website, saying that the organization condemns in the strongest possible terms Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which is an independent, peaceful, and democratic country, and a close NATO partner. It continued, "The alliance calls on President Putin to stop this war immediately, withdraw all his forces from Ukraine without conditions and engage in genuine diplomacy." In February 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin put Russia's nuclear deterrent forces on high alert amid the sweeping sanctions the US and EU have imposed on it. Rogozin has previously said Roscosmos would leave the International Space Station and that the decision had already been affirmed. He also criticized the litany of Western economic sanctions imposed on Russia. He said, I believe that the restoration of normal relations between partners in the International Space Station and other joint projects is possible only with the complete and unconditional lifting of illegal sanctions. Rogozin added in his telegram message that the war, which Putin called a special military operation, had gone far beyond its original meaning and geography, and called it a war for the truth and the right of Russia to exist as a single and independent state. Nuclear capabilities abound in Europe, and nuclear intentions can be hard to decipher. On one side, Ukraine's attacker, Russia, has the largest stockpile of nuclear warheads in the world, including superiority in tactical nuclear weapons designed for battlefield use. On the other side, Ukraine's most powerful strategic partner, the United States, also has an extremely large and sophisticated nuclear stockpile. NATO partners France and the UK have their own advanced nuclear capabilities, and NATO sharing states Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey host US nuclear weapons on their territory. The risk of nuclear use stems from tensions escalating between Russia, the US and NATO, even as the latter try to resist being drawn directly into the war. Although it is extremely unlikely the US or its NATO allies would set out to conduct a nuclear strike against Russia, it is possible to imagine several scenarios that could lead them to become entangled in the conflict, leading to unintended nuclear escalation. The most serious danger is that of misperception, the risk that action taken by the US or NATO in support of Ukraine is misinterpreted by Russia as a deliberate strategic provocation. This is not a far-fetched scenario given Russia's nuclear posture, which maintains nuclear forces on high alert, and given the nuclear threats made by President Putin. It is obvious that Putin's nuclear signaling is designed to deter the US and its allies from further intervention in Ukraine and economic measures that he may see as an existential threat. But escalation can also take on a momentum of its own, and because the margins are so thin, leaders have only a few minutes to make decisions if they believe their countries are under attack. The US and its allies will have to tread extremely carefully in their response. But at least, Russia could begin dispersing intercontinental ballistic missiles from their bases and fitting them to long-range heavy bombers, threatening the US, or move tactical warheads from their centralized storage facilities to their deployment location. Late October 2022, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that Moscow sees no point in maintaining diplomatic relations with Western states writ large. Lavrov noted that Russia would like to focus its world diplomacy on countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia rather than work with the West. He said, "We will shift the center of gravity to countries that are ready to cooperate with us on equal and mutually beneficial terms and look for promising joint projects."